Introducing the strong female lead. She is beautiful, emotionless, and trained in 12 forms of combat. How empowering, right?
She's a badass fighter who takes no prisoners.
Now, before you raise your pitchforks at me, let me just address a counterpoint that I received, which may or may not echo what you're feeling right now. In my opinion, a strong female lead is never cringe. A strong female lead is, by definition, empowering. If a character is written as strong, that is a positive step toward representation, and calling it cringe usually reflects personal discomfort, societal bias, or resistance to change. Now, I get where this reader is coming from, but let's not deny that strong female lead has become a stereotype in modern media. It no longer just represents an objectively well-written character. Writers seem to think that they can make their female characters cocky, badass fighters, and will just instantly love them because it is progressive and empowering. I think it's cheap. I am not saying at all that a female character can't be tough. I'm also against the narrative that a female character's strength is their nurturing nature, or their gentleness, or some other stereotypically feminine traits. This is coming from a writer whose entire Belladonna series features badass fighter girls in leather boots. So I've thought about this a lot, and don't worry, I do have a nuanced take on it. There's a reason why a lot of readers like the girls in Nightshade Academy and Underground Royalty, and it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they wear a military uniform. Nightshade Academy absolutely has strong female characters. I felt all the female main characters were well fleshed out and could fully stand on their own outside of this archetype. Professor Ember from Nightshade Academy is an example of a strong female character. She is very tough emotionally, and you know you shouldn't mess with her. It's very refreshing that her intimidating presence has nothing to do with muscles. I think Vel and Everest are really well done in Underground Royalty. They don't feel like their thing is to be female leads in contrast to the other two male leads. My characters Vel and Everest are both fighters in a male-dominated military force, but they are not hollow. They have their own personalities, goals, insecurities, flaws, and that's really what we're talking about in this video. A strong female character can't just be physically strong, they need to have more going on. They need to be complex. But what exactly makes a complex female character? I hosted a poll through the Lost Island Press newsletter, and I analyzed all the responses, and I was able to break down 5 rules to follow if you want to write a truly strong and complex female character. Rule number 1. Give her agency. I think strong female leads have agency. They're assertive, but aren't rude. They can share their opinions without being unnecessarily aggressive. I do still think that a female character can be rude or aggressive, so long as it's treated like a flaw, same for a male character, of course. But I'll talk about that a little bit more later on in this video. Give her agency, regardless of how strong she is, because if she can make decisions on her own, she'll feel more like a real person, and therefore more relatable. 100%. I think this explains why it is that agency actually matters and makes them feel real. One thing I dislike is when a supposedly strong character remains too passive. If you want a character to feel strong, she needs to voice her opinion, and you need to show that she can make her own decisions, even bad ones. I really love that Tybalt highlighted the fact that female characters can mess up. Our characters should make mistakes and should make bad decisions. Rule number 2, make her vulnerable. Readers don't actually care whether a strong female lead is physically strong or not. Like, if you take anything away from this video, that is the thing. What they really want is a character who has internal struggles. Whether she can fight well or not, I don't really care. Make the female lead a well-developed character. Give her an emotional core that I can sympathize with, and this doesn't mean she has to have an emotional personality. I really like that Sophie highlighted the emotional personality as well. They can be a more guarded person, a more quiet person. Maybe that means they open up to someone once in a while, or that means they have an emotional breakdown on their own. Maybe it means that we only see their worries and struggles through the narrative. None of the other characters ever see that about them, but it needs to exist.
Wow, great makeup. Thanks. For a clown.
Those girls don't know what they're talking about.
It's okay. One of the good things about being blind is that I don't have to waste my time worrying about appearances. I know who I am.
The cliche that bothers me is when female main characters are made to be invincible. or refuse to show emotion, just for the sake of being strong female main characters. I agree, I am 100% on board with having stoic female characters. In fact, I would probably describe a lot of the characters that I write that way. But like I said earlier, just because a character is more guarded and maybe doesn't show their emotions as much and fits more into the stereotypical like masculine, quiet type, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't have any emotions. Having those emotions doesn't make them weak. I believe strong female leads are done right when they have more than just physical strength. Strength of character and resilience also counts. Resilience is such an underrated quality. It's just a likable quality, regardless of gender. Strong doesn't need to mean physically strong. You can have a character like Mulan who earns her strength by training. You can also go the other way around and have a character who doesn't need physical strength, like Miss Marple or Elle Woods. This also reminds me of the struggle the writers of Stargate SG-1 had with the character Samantha Carter. She was gifted with intelligence, engineering skills, and battle skills. The concept of her character looked like Superwoman on paper. So how did they make her more likable? They gave her emotional depth. She looked headstrong toward her teammates, but she was actually rather insecure. I think Tybalt sums up this rule absolutely perfectly. Regardless of whether or not your female main character is strong, she still needs to struggle emotionally and persevere through it. That's what makes her actually empowering. Rule number 3. Give her flaws. I dislike it when writers have female main characters do something better than the male main characters, usually in the context of fighting, just to show us, and the main male characters, that she's stronger than the guys. And usually the female main character is cocky about it, and I find that more annoying than cool.
Being a Hulk asks for balance.
It is really annoying, and I don't think it's necessarily a wrong choice, but I'll talk about that in just a moment. A strong female character is plain cringe when she's unrealistically strong, unless she has superpowers. Star vs. the Forces of Evil, they have the duo with Star and Marco, and he's like good at karate, and she just has powers.
Marco, I'm not gonna fight you.
Go ahead. Hit me with your best spell.
Ugh, come on, Marco, I really don't have time for this nonsense. Strawberry shake weight!
Anyways, I got sidetracked. Has no character flaws or fears, and bullies men to appear better than them, rather than treating them as equals. A strong female character is done right when she's mature but has flaws, and done wrong when she's arrogant and physically strong without any brains, and doesn't appreciate help because I could have handled it just fine.
So I'm clearly nailing it at all of these things.
Now, I completely understand where all of these readers are coming from, but I want to bring a little bit of nuance into this point. Like these readers have mentioned, a lot of modern strong female leads have an inflated ego, and it's kind of incorporated into the story as a cool trait. However, in contrast to this point, another reader said, male characters are often forgiven for being overpowered, poorly written, or overly cocky. Female characters should be granted the same leeway to be flawed without ridicule. So we have one side that is saying female characters are way too cocky and overpowered, and the other side saying, well, they should be allowed to be because male characters do that all the time. I do agree that male characters probably have cockiness as a personality trait a lot more so than female characters, but I disagree that they are forgiven for that. Personally, if I'm reading about an overpowered, poorly written, cocky character, male or female, I am not going to enjoy it. I don't think that we should be expected to enjoy that kind of unlikable character, regardless of gender. What we can do is allow both male and female characters to have cockiness as a personality trait so long as it is treated like a flaw and not a cool trait. One show that I think handled this really well is The Legend of Korra.
Why didn't you tell us you were the Avatar?
Because I never wanted to be.
The Avatar after Aang is nothing like his humble, conflict-avoidant self. She is cocky, overpowered, super talented right from the start.
I'm the Avatar! You gotta deal with it!
What is wrong with you?
Maybe the problem isn't me. Maybe the reason I haven't learned airbending yet is because you're a terrible teacher.
People tend not to like her very much. However, her cockiness is never treated like a cool trait that we're supposed to like her for. She pays the price for it down the line. She gets humbled, and she grows a lot as a character.
You're going to get through this. Oh, I love you so much.
Your female character's flaw does not have to be cockiness, but she needs to have flaws. We relate to people who are human, and humans make mistakes, and humans can be mean and cruel and messed up sometimes. So our characters should reflect that, regardless of gender. Rule number 4, don't make her just a badass. If their only personality trait is strong female lead, it can get pretty irritating, especially in the first-person POV. A female lead is cringe when she's pardoned for being unrealistic just because she's a girl. Let's be honest, most women are not going to be able to take down 70 bulky 6-foot guys while still having perfect hair, makeup, and cheesy one-liners. Bonus points if she's had no training and someone tells her she's a natural.
No! Your chi is strong, Mulan.
Very strong female Asian protagonist.
I found this next submission to kind of tie in with that last one. I haven't read Nightshade Academy yet, but having a girl as an underdog really shouldn't be so unique. That's at no offense to the author, rather that it says a lot about modern society. Needless to say, Vel sounds interesting in my book. So for context, in the first book of my Belladonna series, Nightshade Academy, I have a character, Vel, who is the only girl training at a military boarding school. Instead of making her unusually strong, I chose to focus on her physical disadvantages and how this situation affected her emotionally and how it created some insecurities as well. She's still a badass character, of course. I love Vel. Pretty much everyone loves Vel who has read the book, but it took time for her to get stronger and kind of match up to the same level as the guys. And I think a lot of writers these days are scared to explore that idea that women can be physically weaker than men, and a lot of times are. Essentially, what this reader was trying to get at is that we shouldn't be afraid to be more real with our stories and make female characters the underdog in these physically demanding situations. Now, I'm not saying that this is the way that you need to explore your character. You can still have a strong character from the start. All I'm saying is that your character needs to be more than just a strong female lead. You have to give them other traits, regardless of how strong they are. And I think this next submission really sums it up perfectly. A female character is done right when they are written to be human, just as you would write a male character with flaws, insecurities, misbeliefs, quirks, and habits, is the same way you would write a strong female character. This is why Toph and Katara from Avatar: The Last Airbender were done so well. They were just girls. The purpose wasn't to have them be as badass as possible, but rather for them to be human beings, with all the baggage that comes with that. Rule number 5. Stop writing female characters based on feminine stereotypes. Honestly, I hardly come across strong female protagonists in books. They exist more so in the real world. Until authors stop writing women on the basis of mere stereotypes, a true woman will never be represented. A strong female character is done right when the author doesn't focus too much on the lead's feminine traits to the point where it becomes weird. Their thing isn't just being a woman. They need to have an actual personality and goal. Obviously, they can have feminine traits, but they should be kept just as that, traits, and not become the whole thing for those characters. When writing women for a story, or just any character for that matter, I tend to take inspiration from real people I know. I feel like the best way to make a strong female lead is to make her natural, and to do so, a good way to start is to look to real women instead of thinking about the stereotypes, which might fill our heads with wrong ideas. These points by Joey and Victor were really interesting to me. What they said really reminded me of a heated debate I got into with a guy about a year ago. He was also a fellow writer. He was struggling a lot with writing the female characters in his book. He was so convinced that he had to approach writing a female character in a completely different way from writing a male character. I said, how about you do this? Write the character, for now, as a guy. He kind of scoffed at the idea and said, there is no way that would work. Readers would see right through it. They would have this female character who is super masculine because I wrote it as a male character. Well, here's the thing. I actually did this exact strategy with my first book, Leaving Wishville. Chloe Mortimer, in that book, was originally Tyson, and he was a baseball player who made a lot of jokes. I ended up changing Tyson to Chloe, changing all of the pronouns, and then all of a sudden I had Chloe Mortimer, who played softball and made jokes. And nobody guessed Nobody wrote to me saying, hey, by the way, Chloe Mortimer is very masculine and weird. I think that trying to write a female character in a different way as how you'd write a male character isn't the best strategy. Of course, maybe there are some specific situations in which you really have to approach a character differently. Like, for example, if a story is really about like a woman's perspective. However, I think in most cases you can pretty much write the character in the exact same way as you would write a different gender, you know? So the moral of the story is, don't try to make her a badass, and she'll probably become a badass anyway. So to summarize, here are the 5 ingredients your female character needs to be strong and complex. Number 1, agency. Let her make her own decisions, including bad ones. Number 2, vulnerability. Show what scares her, hurts her, and holds her back. Number 3, flaws. Give her personality traits that cause problems and force her to grow. Number 4, personality. Make her more than just tough. Number 5, humanity. Write her as a person and don't overthink the fact that she's a woman. Now, before we close off, I would really love to hear who your favorite strong female leads are in the comments below, the ones that are done right, whether it be from movies, shows, books, or video games. I also want to take a moment to thank everyone who submitted responses to the survey that I sent out through Lost Island Press. I featured some of those responses in this video here. If you'd like to take part in future discussions and have a chance of being featured on YouTube, please be sure to join the Lost Island Press newsletter. I'll have a link in the description below, and plus you'll get a free ebook of my novel Capsule as a welcome gift. As a final note, if you're looking to improve the plot of your story, I highly recommend checking out my novel plotting crash course on Lost Island Inc. The first of 9 video lessons is completely free, and that lecture alone helped a writer finish their first draft, which is so incredible. Definitely check out that first lecture because it's completely free and it's one of the most valuable lessons in the course. Anyways, that is all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, get lost.